It gives me a great pleasure and is an honor for me to welcome you in the name of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and its partners to this EU-ASEAN Economic and Policy Forum Jakarta 2013.
We have indeed had a busy and very successful last 12 months together. The EU High Representative Catherine Ashton and 12 EU ministers met their ASEAN counterparts in Brunei to endorse the Plan of Action and agree specific activities in the economic, political and social areas that will bring our two great regions closer together. The importance of our ministers signing this ambitious ASEAN-EU Plan of Action is critical to the path of our future relations over the coming decade. The level of our economic cooperation has also accelerated significantly in the last year. New trade agreements have been finalized with Singapore and are being negotiated with Thailand, Malaysia and Vietnam. Our support for economic integration within ASEAN expanded with the launch of the EU-ASEAN programme Arise, a launch which we undertook in the first days of the Secretary-General's taking up of office. This new programme, coming on top of our some $65 million programme for general support to ASEAN at the regional level, seeks to help ASEAN's next stage in its economic integration. The alliance that we are building today will not only underpin and expand the people-to-people and economic ties that we already enjoy, but it will be the basis for an expanded alliance of tomorrow, where the two greatest soft powers in the world will work more and more together to find multilateral solutions to common but critical problems that traditional national bilateral relations are insufficient to address alone. We, ASEAN and the EU, are not only part of the solution to assure our citizens of a more secure, stable and prosperous future, but we together can make a better world for all.
By bringing together policymakers, business community, academia and the civil society, provide an opportunity for discussion on further enhancing ASEAN-EU relations. I thank the EU delegation and the Permanent Mission of Vietnam for the initiative, making this forum all possible.
Well, remember, on the trade, our goal is to arrive at a regional agreement, but we are doing individual country agreements, and then we will put an umbrella on top of that.
In terms of on the way forward, just to share some thought with you, because one thing we learned from the global economic uncertainty is that no country or no economies is actually resilient in the sense that we are more interdependent, we are more interlinked with each other. But however, having said that, they still should be seen as an opportunity. If you want to have the answer to all this global uncertainty, it lies deep down in the regional integration effort in ASEAN member country. The more we're integrated, the more we're in a better position to address all this fallout from the global economic uncertainty.
Interdependence within ASEAN is still much lower than the interdependence of ASEAN with the wider global economies, whether it is with China, with Japan, with EU, and so on. And you can see that the questions, the $6 million questions that has been asked, you know, the compliance of member countries, how to overcome internal obstacles. This is not simply an academic issue. If we look at the trade figures of the ASEAN countries, the intra-trade figures, the highest dependence on intra-ASEAN trade is from Myanmar. The second highest is from Laos.
There was enthusiasm on the part of leaders of ASEAN, and then to expedite this realization of ASEAN community, not in 2020, but in 2015. So it can be also inferred if we see the EU process is market-driven or economic-driven, and ASEAN process is a political-driven.
As I said, is the EU still interesting as a trade partner? All we hear about is doom and gloom in the newspapers. Is it still relevant? Well, the EU may be projected to grow rather slowly, but it does remain the largest economy in the world. The EU remains very free in terms of trade. Its market is very open.
I think an interesting story here is how Europe is very important as a source of FDI for ASEAN. And indeed, as Harvey said, they're the biggest investor in ASEAN, but only up to 2010. You can see in 2011, ASEAN is now its own biggest investor. So there's been a very sharp increase in intra-ASEAN FDI flows.
Now, on the European experience first, this was mentioned this morning, you know it, the European project has led to peace in Europe since the Second World War. This was very much the whole idea about creating the European community, which became the European Union. NATO has obviously also played a role, and the CSE, OSCE. So I just wanted to make the point that in Europe we really have a very strong security architecture, which has helped us for more than 50 years.
And a large part of my work has been to follow EU-ASEAN relations. And I have to say, it's been a fascinating journey. It's been a very challenging journey. As we heard this morning from Julian Wilson and others, you know, there have been massive changes in both regions, massive changes in both regions. Both are adapting to new realities, and both are dealing with some very, very competitive, assertive neighbors. Russia for the European Union, China also for ASEAN, but also for the European Union. So both EU and ASEAN face a challenge of relevance, influence, and importance in the 21st century. And I think this is what really binds them together. I just wanted to say that if we're going to take this relationship forward, we have to agree on one core factor, one underlining, overarching point, and that is EU-ASEAN relations are a compelling necessity. Not because the two regions have to be nice to each other, not because they have to be diplomatic and courteous to each other, but in the 21st century, we face such massive, complex, complicated questions that no country, no region alone can deal with them. So over 35 years, I've come to this conclusion: we need to work together. We need to cooperate. It's not about being nice. It's about really necessary action, cooperation, alliances, and coalitions. If we're going to take this relationship into a new century, because I really don't think we've got it there yet. You know, this is still a 20th century relationship, struggling to adapt and change. We need to move forward, I think, really on three core areas, Rahima. First of all, I think we need to upgrade the structures of this relationship. Two, I think we need to improve the content and the delivery of this relationship, this very pivotal relationship. And third, we need to change the tone and the style of this relationship. Now, I've been looking at this for a very long time, and if these, I believe, really, if these three areas are worked on, structure, content, and tone, then we increase the visibility of this EU-ASEAN relationship. It's not a very visible relationship on the global stage. We need to get it there. It's important we get it there.